Hey dudes and dudettes, it's me Lex, aka Smarmy Clothes, with another What the Craft tutorial for you. Today I'm going to show you how to make some cute ruffle butt underwear like these. Here we have all the supplies we're going to need, including a pair of underwear to use as a pattern, paper, pencil, measuring tape, marking tools, some scissors, pins, and our fabric, including some awesome ruffle fabric provided by rufflefabric.com. And I'm also going to finish mine with stretch lace, but that is optional. The first step is going to be to make a pattern using our existing pair of underwear. Use any style you want. I opted for boy shorts because that's what I had on hand. So once you have it traced out, and I've gone over my marker so you can see it, I'm going to add seam allowances to the sides. I'm using about a 1/4 inch seam allowance because I'm using a serger. If you're using a regular sewing machine, you might want to go for more of a 3/8. And then I'm doing a 3/8 to 1/2 inch hem allowance on the top and the leg holes. And don't forget the seam allowance at the crotch seam also. So now we're going to do the same with the front. And this one's a little more tricky because you can't just trace around that. So what I like to do is pick one spot and mark it with my finger, lift it up, and mark where my finger's holding with the pencil. And you're going to do a series of dots like that all the way around the curve of the leg hole. And in case you're wondering, these are clean, unworn, brand new undies. I will not be showing my dirty drawers on YouTube. So here again, I've gone over it with a marker so you can really see it. And now we're going to connect the dots, pretty easy. And then add those, again, seam allowances at the side and crotch, and hem allowances at the top and the leg holes. Now we cut. If you do use a pair of old underwear that you're willing to sacrifice, you could forego making the paper pattern and just cut the underwear apart and use that as your pattern piece itself. So now we have our pattern pieces cut out. We're going to even them up a little bit, make sure they're symmetrical, because we don't want crooked, wonky underwear. So fold it in half down the middle like so, and then just trim those edges where you have a little overhang where the pieces aren't quite meeting up. It shouldn't be too much if you did a good job tracing your underwear. Now remember to do that with the front and back, which I've done here. Now we want to make sure that the front and back pieces line up right, so put them together at the crotch and see that that is even, and I've done a pretty good job, so it's pretty much perfect. And then you want to do the same for the sides. Line them up, and we got a little bit of overhang, so just trim that front so it matches the back. Do that with both sides. Now if you want, you could do the front and back in a ruffle fabric, but I decided to do the front in a polka dot and strawberry that goes really well with my red and pink ruffle fabric. And I've also got my hot pink lace. And I'm going to cut my front piece first. So here I've got my pattern folded in half and my fabric folded over. It's easy to cut on the fold because it's less work. So trace around it with a fabric marking pen and then cut it out where you've marked. And one of those little bits from the leg hole, cut that out because we're going to need that too. And right now is a really good time to talk about stretch. When you go to cut out your pattern, keep in mind which way the fabric stretches. You want it to stretch the same way as the width of your butt and hips, or else you're not going to be able to get the underwear on. Okay, now that we've got that front piece cut out, we need to make our crotch lining, aka the gusset. So we're going to line that up right under there and just trace around it the same way we did with our pattern. And you don't have to use the same fabric used for the outside. You can use any piece of scrap knit fabric. And if you flip that over and lay it down, you can see how it works. Now this edge is going to be in a seam. The top edge is not, so we want to finish that. You can fold it over and hem it, serge it, or use a pair of pinking shears to give it a nice edge. Like this. Now it's time to cut the ruffle fabric, and this requires a little more care than a flat knit fabric, so fold it over and then make sure all those little ruffles are laying in the same direction, which is down. And then we're going to mark our pattern piece. Here you can see I've cut the leg hole and the side. When I get to the crotch, It's right on the edge of a ruffle, and I want to make sure I don't cut through the ruffle. So I'm going to be really careful and cut only through that back layer of fabric on both sides, doing one side at a time, making sure again that I don't cut through the ruffle. And if you open up, you can see I have a nice straight line and no little ruffle bits. Now the top edge of our pattern piece has a slight curve, but as you can see that would cut right through a ruffle, so I'm going to leave it straight so we have that nice clean edge. So back to our front piece. Take that gusset, which I have now finished to the top of mine with a serged edge, and pin the bottom and give one pin to the top just to keep it in place. Now with right sides together, we're going to pin the back and the front together at the crotch. Make sure you fold that ruffle back because we don't want to sew through that. And then pin those together. So you should have 3 layers of fabric that you will sew together like so. And if you open it up, you'll see our partially assembled undies. The next step is going to be to finish the leg holes. So we want to fold those over. Again, if you used a 3/8 hem allowance, you'll fold over 3/8 of an inch. If you used a 1/2 inch, you'll fold over 1/2 inch. And you're going to pin all the way around, paying special attention to that curve at the crotch on the front piece, because it will be a little tricky. And you also want to make sure, again, that when you pin the back piece, all those ruffles are laying down flat in the same direction.